Well, it's kind of late. Some of you are going to see this in the morning. It's 10:45. But it's the Iowa Caucus. And we're watching the results on Google News. Is that the fake news network? And we have some really big updates in terms like the Super Bowl prophecy. I want to talk to you about that. Because so many people were obviously talking about the Bob Jones prophecy, which we have back here. The Bible prophecy claims revival will come if Kansas City wins the Super Bowl. I used to follow the Super Bowl, but I became so disenchanted with Super Bowl stuff when I found out. I was a New England guy because I was up in New England for like 20 years. And so I would be cheering for the Patriots, and I'm reading all the prophecies, and I would get a word. It's the year of the Patriot. The Patriots are going to, blah, 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 blah. And you know how it is. If you're in the prophetic culture, we find significance in almost every significant event. And but then I found out, oh my God, then it was Tom Brady's wife came out as a witch. And this would be like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode if I ever saw one. Christians all over the Northeast, especially New England, and all the prophets were like, what the? Tom Brady's wife says, oh yeah, we put spells on the opposite team, and she's like claiming their incantations work every time Tom Brady plays. Well, immediately, I knew that was the end of the Patriots' intercessory cover. You talk about Samson having his hair shaved off. There was no intercession coming out of anybody who loved the Patriots once they found out Tom Brady's wife's a witch. Well, this sounds absurd. I know. The danger is I'm on Facebook here, and people can, or YouTube, and of course this, anyone can lampoon this. But this is our culture. We're a peculiar people. But so it didn't surprise me. The Patriots may be cooked. As far as I'm concerned, they may never get back in until this thing gets sorted out. Because I'm telling you, there's a lot of very, very betrayed intercessors right now, prophets, about the whole Patriot situation with Tom Brady's wife. Anyway, so I said, oh, forget it, man. I'm getting involved with real prophetic issues and getting rather frustrated at times because Christians ignore real issues. And, of course, they're all like, gaga over, an awakening and prophecy, and they're in the courts of heaven. And I believe all that. But we got 30 million dingbat Christians that don't even vote. It's kind of like, what can you say? It's like God giving you permission. God saying you could choose death, you could choose life. I'm going to give a few countries the option of making the choice. You choose what kind of government you want. And Christians going, well, I don't want to because I don't believe that we're supposed to get involved with politics. And it's like, kabing, you feel like just... All right, so we got 30 million Christians that don't vote. Meanwhile, it comes down to a hair trigger, intercession, agonizing, prophesying, and prayer and fasting. And I can't tell you how many Christian leaders are still missing it on Donald Trump. I mean, I don't want to mention names, but they just annoy the heck out of me. I mean, my God, it's like, there's Lincoln, right? Like being alive during the Civil War and saying, well, it really doesn't matter whether or not you're Republican or a Democrat. God's going to have his way in the end. Well, thanks a lot, knucklehead. You were a lot of help. But I think somebody should have been praying for Lincoln and standing with the guy because history vindicates the fact that he actually was on the right side of history. And so people that were staying out of politics were kind of embarrassing at that. I mean, it's the same thing with the civil rights movement. All you Christians that talk about staying out of politics, and I'll get off this hobby horse in a second, let's ask you a question. I want you to go back. I want you to go look at the African-American community. Look at all your black brothers and sisters. You look them in the face. You got a picture of Martin Luther King up there, and then you say, if I'd been alive when Martin Luther King was alive, I would have stayed the heck out of the civil rights movement because, after all, God isn't in that protesting and that natural stuff. If you want to change the world, just pray and go into the courts of heaven, and revival will come. You wouldn't last long. And you wouldn't even say it because you'd have enough sense to know, oh, I would have stood with brother. I would have stood with Martin. I would have stood with them. Of course you would have. Well, you're in that moment of history now, pizza brain. Okay. Anyway, so here we got Donald Trump, and we're looking at the Iowa caucus because poor, Joe Biden is taking such a beating. I'm telling you, he ain't going to survive. First of all, he should have run, years ago because he's past his prime. Everybody knows it. Like Donald Trump said, he's lost his fastball. He's just not going to be able to keep up. And Sanders already had a heart attack. What you want to really pay attention to is who his running mate is, because his running mate's going to end up running. Because these guys are so old. They're so old. I'm old. And they're older than me. Okay. Now, back to where I was. Bob Jones and the Kansas City prophecy. So anyway, Bob Jones has his prophecy, and of course everybody's saying to me, Lance prophecy, Lance prophecy. Okay, I agree. So I checked it out. Bob Jones did prophesy. Now at the time that he prophesied this, he was prophesying, it's kind of fascinating how this works, but he was prophesying over people, the who's who, in a different era. And what's funny is, like Pat, and he mentions the names, it was people that they thought it applied to at that time, alive in Kansas City 20 years ago. But blip, they're dead and gone, so it wasn't them after all. But it ends up being the same. It's weird. It's the same names. It's Pat. Again, it's the same. In other words, it's like, and by the way, the manager, this is so crazy. The who is it? The head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. It was his 222nd win. This is weird numbers. 222nd win on 02/02/2020. That's so weird. It was in the last 6 minutes of the game, and while I was watching the game, and I felt the Spirit of the Lord. Now all of a sudden, because I told you about my Tom Brady disappointment. I'm not getting involved with the Super Bowl and prophecy. Oh, that's so soft, Mark. That's so. Oh, it's just not. It's not dignified. And besides that, we got real. Civilization is on the balance with Donald Trump, and I'm and then the Lord says, well, take a look at the Super Bowl. So I'm watching the Super Bowl with my wife, and she's in the kitchen. She wanted to watch it. Actually, she wanted to watch it, so I put it on. And I said, what about Tom Brady's wife? I was still upset about that. Anyway, so we're watching the game, and they had a quick crowd picture. Say that 5 times fast. A quick crowd picture. And so I'm looking at this picture, and I swear I look at these faces, and they look like a bunch of IHOP Bethel kids. Just that kind of clean, fun, kind of, dressed down, young people type look. And it's like, I swear I'm looking at some people I've seen they look like great little Christian millennials. And they're out there, out there in the streets. And right away I thought, you know what? I wasn't even thinking about Bob Jones' prophecy. Bob Jones also had a prophecy about when Kansas City won the World Series, there was going to be revival. And I don't know, maybe that was the Toronto revival or something. But anyway, so I looked at that and I said, those sweet kids, Kansas City needs it. And you know what? 49ers, San Francisco, what a rebellious city. Now, there's great Christians on both teams, and there's great Christians in San Francisco. So don't be upset with me when I tell you this. San Francisco is a sanctuary city. It doesn't honor the Lord. And the Christians are not influencing it enough to get it to honor the Lord. It's backslid. Now, San Francisco has a mercy gift. And that's, if you look at the redemptive gifts of city, San Francisco, that's where the homosexual movement started, was in San Francisco, because it's mercy. But you see a city that has a mercy gift, like there's like various gifts that God gives, redemptive gifts God gives nations and cities. It's a fascinating subject, but God knows, believe it or not, that Rome and Athens and Corinth and Jerusalem, these places are going to exist, or Mecca for that matter. So San Francisco's redemptive gift is mercy. They're the home of, they just embrace every broken person. The problem is, without the gospel, mercy goes off and it becomes rebellious. So anyway, San Francisco's really rebellious. So they got assistant coach, first female coach in the NFL. All right, that's great, except for the fact that she's also like openly gay. I mean, they always got to get that in. First female coach. Why can't we just have a first female coach? We've got to have a first female coach who's openly gay, which confuses the heck out of people like me, because I'm still figuring out the LGBTQ and understanding. I'm reading Douglas Murray. I'm trying to understand the difference between the bisexual and the transgender and the queer, which is different than the gay. Now, I looked it up. So if you're lesbian, just forgive me for a second. I got to clarify this. If you're lesbian, it's the same as being homosexual. Basically, the word gay means to have an attraction sexually, physically, spiritually, emotionally to someone else of the same gender. But isn't that, if you're lesbian, isn't that what you have, the same gender attraction? So isn't it redundant to say you're a lesbian? Like, what's the difference between saying you're gay or lesbian if you happen to be a female who's lesbian? So anyway, I'm just confused because I'm reading she's the first openly gay. Why don't you just say openly lesbian? Why do they choose that word? So I'm thinking the whole thing is 49ers, San Francisco, got Christians in the team, I know, but the city is a sanctuary city. It's got the Kate Stein shooting. It's just a rebellious city. And thank God for the Christians that are out there. It's like saints in Caesar's house. God bless you. You're there with Nero, but it's Nero. And so I'm looking at Kansas City. I'm saying, oh, those sweet IHOP. Remember IHOP? You know, I visited them once. They never had me speak there. I'm a little too controversial, I suppose. But I was like Mike Bickle. He's a friend of mine, and IHOP's a cool place, and I love it. And so I thought, what about IHOP? That's all those IHOP. And I thought those kids in the streets. I'll bet you those IHOP people are praying for Kansas City. Bob Jones prophesied that when Kansas City wins the Super Bowl, there's going to be revival. And so, Kansas City, I'm watching the game, and I started thinking, I said, they have to win. Kansas City needs it. They ought to do it. They ought to win. As a matter of fact, I don't want San Francisco to win. I want Kansas City to win. So I start, go God. And I'm watching the game. It's fascinating because they were, in the last 6 minutes, they're throwing these interceptions. Oh, it was disastrous. And I'm looking at the game, and so for those of you that didn't watch it, or those of you that did, the fun part is like the last 6 minutes. And so it was a 6-minute, what was it, man? They came from double-digit behind to 24-20. Man, zoop. And I was so fascinated by that coming back. Then I find out that the quarterback's Christian, an outspoken Christian, young guy. And he's a Christian. The Chiefs were down by double digits, but you know what the coach said? Keep firing. And what the young guy said is, you got to have faith. And I kept thinking, this is it for the word. This is word for 2020. Even when it looks like we're losing, folks, you got to have that keep firing faith. Keep firing faith. Keep firing faith. Even though you haven't been to the Super Bowl in 50 years, and the 49ers have been there, it's their 7th time, and the Patriots, forget about them because of Tom Brady's wife. But you got that kid says, keep firing. And so rather than getting caught up with interceptions and screw-ups, he kept firing. Well, it was beautiful. And so, of course, they won. And it was kind of exciting because I think Kansas City needs to win. 49ers don't. San Francisco doesn't need to celebrate right now. They need to repent. So I'm watching that Bob Jones prophecy. Now, of course, now if you're a Christian and you're excited about this Bob Jones prophecy, it only makes sense if you're registered to vote and you like Donald Trump. If you're not registered to vote and you don't like Donald Trump, don't talk to me about that prophecy because you're missing the boat. And what God's doing right now is spiritual warfare. You talk about spiritual warfare, an unprecedented level. But let me just stop for a second. There are 2 prophecies. I titled this post 2 prophecies because this Bob Jones prophecy was only one prophecy. The other prophecy was equally significant. You know what that other prophecy was? The other prophecy was that goofy halftime show. That halftime show was a total disgrace. It was pornography hour for your family. See, it's supposed to be family entertainment. I don't know if the NFL knows this yet, but was Jay-Z and Beyonce, like he's supposed to be in charge of entertainment. And there's another major disappointment I want to talk about right now. They were sitting during the national anthem. They refused to stand. They're in charge. You got a rebellious spirit in charge of entertainment. Doesn't like the country. Doesn't want to stand for the national anthem. Is in charge. NFL's all screwed up. And so they put the sex show on. And I'm not happy. The only thing I can say is Beyonce's doing great at 50. Isn't that great? She's on that pole. And she's dancing on that pole. And, here's the hypocrisy and the lunacy of the left. I'm sitting there trying to think about the Me Too movement. How do they explain this? Isn't the Me Too movement about, I got Weinstein on trial, you got Epstein, and all the other Steins, that are scandalous because of sexual predator behavior. And yet you got this salacious sex show going on. And it's unapologetic. I mean, I'm reading the reviews. Unapologetic, celebrating lust and life. I mean, I think it's both a triumph and a tragedy. The triumph is, how a 50-year-old can get on that pole and not throw a disc. I mean, I'm impressed. But you talk about women as sex objects, and then on the top of that, trying to protest sex trafficking. How the heck can you be talking about sex trafficking? It's negative, and you got these women gyrating around in their in their scantily clad outfits. I put clean ones on there because I know Christians are going to complain if I put on what they actually are wearing. So I'm just saying that women, and then I'm reading, some liberal says, well, with the Me Too movement, I admit there's a little confusion, but the message is, women can be sexual, but women don't want to be raped. Well, no kidding, Sherlock Holmes. I mean, that's brilliant. So you got 100 million people. My point is the flippin' NFL, infantile NFL, with Jay-Z and Beyonce, who won't stand up for the national anthem. You guys ought to wake up and recognize that you got 100 million people. It's supposed to be family entertainment, not soft pornography hour. And no, we don't want our daughters having to gyrate around like that and grab their crotches and dance for you. And we don't want our young men having a look at that, all that thumping and humping around, Latino raging, and all that stuff. Oh, am I going to get comments on this one? I'm just enjoying the comments I'm going to get. Anyway, I'm telling you right now, that pole dancing, if I got on a pole and tried to do that, I'd slip a disc. I swear I would. Anyway, a roundabout would throw a disc at me if I did it. All right, so anyway, the point is it's a prophecy. It's a prophecy. Now, Michael Brown's always good for he's a very pious fellow, a good friend of mine. And Michael Brown, of course, I'm always reading what he says. And he says, why are we so shocked by the latest sexually charged halftime show? He makes the argument that, well, we shouldn't be shocked. This has been going on for a long time. And Franklin Graham says this, I don't expect the world to act like the church, but our country's had a sense of moral decency on primetime television. We have to, but our country has at one time had a sense of moral decency. And on primetime, and we see this disappearing before our eyes. Our kids can't watch this. You know, I remember the Janet Jackson wardrobe malfunction. Remember that? It wasn't a wardrobe malfunction. It was a planned thing because when her little baby popped out, she had a decal over her breast. So it was planned. I remember I was sitting there with Graham Cook, fine British prophet Graham Cook, and we were about sitting there, and he says, I think that's a bit unusual, don't you think? I was watching with a man of God, the halftime show, and I'll tell you, it's been going down. But what do we have? Remember 1987? It was George Burns and Mickey Rooney. Oh my God, that was, and all of a sudden 1988, we had the Rockettes. Well, the Rockettes, New York Rockettes, hardly pole dancers. And then suddenly 1992, we had Walking Through a Winter Wonderland. But then 1993, we had Michael Jackson. Well, this is when it started to go a little bit, because after Michael, we got Britney. We got Britney Spears, wardrobe by Anita More Clothes. And then we have Jessica Simpson in 2004 with the Dallas Cheerleaders. We got Black Eyed Peas in 2011. Madonna, she was a lot of help. And Beyonce, and then Katy Perry, I Kissed a Girl, which was really wonderful, grew up in a Pentecostal church, and like she's still screwed up in the head, sorry to say, even though I love her parents. Then we got Lady Gaga, who's always been a bit gaga. And, okay, so it's just gone down. And so there's been scandalous, sexually explicit, virtually nude videos airing 24/7 for many years. And then we have this, pardon me for saying this, how many crotch-grabbing scenes have our children witnessed over the years? And why then are we so surprised to see a glimpse of it during the Super Bowl? Our culture today celebrates prostitution, glorifies strippers, idolizes porn stars. And just think of the cable TV shows featuring these subjects in a positive light at that. Yes, we have the awards, the Academy Awards for porn stars, which is an interesting study in I don't know, what do we say? So what I'm trying to say is, what does it say about our culture and our nation and our morals if that's the halftime show? It's a prophecy. It's a prophecy. It's a prophecy that America has two streams flowing in it right now. And the two streams are incompatible. By the way, DNC quality control of votes. We're looking at the Iowa blows it. Iowa blows it. Got my screen there. Can you see my screen? Iowa blows it. DNC quality control of votes. Election fiasco. App failure. Results developing. Oh boy. Woo. You know that Iowa. This is important about Iowa because Iowa has predicted, and this is important. Iowa has correctly predicted 7 out of the past 9 contested races. In other words, They were the first one to put a woman up there with Hillary. The first one to put an African American up with Obama. First one to put a Hispanic American up there with Cruz. First one maybe to put a communist. Didn't you love Donald Trump? Donald Trump cracks me up so much. He is hilarious. I'm watching like the pregame show with Hannity, and Hannity's like always like an angry Irish guy at the bar. He goes, "Well, what do you think, Mr. President, about this or this? Give me a name." And so, but Trump is so brilliant. He goes like what is it with Bloomberg? Short. He's a short guy, little guy. Why does he have to get him a box? Nobody's going to be seeing Bloomberg at the next debate without knowing he's on a box. I mean, Trump is just a genius at this. But when it comes to Sanders, what word comes to you for Sanders? He doesn't say socialist. Oh my God. He says communist. Ding, 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 ding. This is like the anvil falling on the Wile E. Coyote, when he's chasing Roadrunner. It's like kaboom. I just watched it.
Hey, you know what? I'm Lance Wallnau, and I want to tell you something. I think that occasionally thumbs up and thumbs down really means something. I wasn't aware that there's a thumbs down option. I thought that was like diminishing to self-esteem on Facebook. But evidently, YouTube is being bold. So you can like me or not like me. But I'd prefer that you liked me and subscribed. So why don't you do that now, and we'll talk some more in the future.